Chosen one. Yes, you. The one who felt the ground move under an ordinary week, a small, quiet shift, before anyone said a single word to explain it. Before we begin, do something for me. Sit down. If there's a door near you, close it. Put your phone face down on the table, screen against the wood, where nothing can reach for you while we talk. Unclench your jaw, you didn't notice you were holding it, and breathe out, all the way out. Not the polite little breath, the long one, the one that empties you, and let the next breath arrive on its own. Good. That's the chosen one I'm speaking to. Now listen, because something quiet just came apart. Somewhere in a room you were not in, they tried to replace you. They slotted in a cheaper version, an easier version, a more agreeable version of you, and told themselves the difference would be small. And then they stood there and watched it fall apart in their hands, one piece at a time, for reasons they could not name. And the room went cold. Now we can talk. For a while, they talked about you like you were a line item. That's the word, line item. A cost, a slot on a chart that could be filled by anyone with the right title and a lower price. They looked at what you did every day and they saw tasks, a function. They looked at the calm you brought into a room and thought the calm came from the room. They looked at the way things simply worked when you were there and decided that things simply worked. So they made a decision. They found someone who would say yes faster, someone who would not push back, would not ask the hard question, would not go quiet in the exact moment that quiet was the only honest response. Someone cheaper, someone smoother, someone who fit the description of your job without carrying a single thing that made you the one who did it. And they slid that person into your place. And they waited for nothing to change. This week, something changed. It wasn't loud. That's what I need you to understand. It was small. A meeting that used to end cleanly now ends with a knot nobody can untie. A thing that used to hold now sags in the middle. A person somewhere reached for the steadiness that was always in the room and closed their hand on air. Nobody stood up and said your name, but the temperature in a room dropped, chosen one, because someone finally understood that what they removed was not the role. It was you, and those are not the same thing, and they had built their whole plan on the belief that they were. Here is what they are only now beginning to process. Everything they thought was the job kept running for a little while after you were gone. The way a fan keeps spinning after the power is cut. And they mistook that spin for proof. See, they said, it still turns. Anyone can do this. And then the spin slowed because nothing was driving it anymore. And by the time they understood what had actually been driving it, the drive was gone and could not be reinstalled by memo. They thought they were replacing a worker. They were removing a keystone. And you do not notice a keystone by looking at it. You notice it by taking it out. Imagine this, a stone arch over an old road, standing so long that people stopped seeing it as a feat and started seeing it as scenery. Every stone looks the same, and someone in charge of the budget decides that the one at the very top, in the middle, the one that costs the most to maintain, is no different from the rest. So they pull it and drop in a cheaper stone cut to the same size. It fits. It looks right. For a week, nobody can tell. And then, with no warning and no sound, the whole arch remembers that one of those stones was never decoration. One of them was holding every other one in place, carrying a load nobody had measured because nobody had ever had to. The cheap stone was the right size. It was not the right stone. And an arch does not care how closely you match the dimensions. It cares which stone is carrying the sky. That's the room. That's this week. And, chosen one, let me put something down for you before we go further. No, you were not too much. No, you did not overplay your hand. No, you were not paranoid for feeling, in the last months, that you were being measured for removal. You felt it because it was real. But hear the turn in it. What felt like being discarded was the only way the truth about you could ever be proven. They had to take you out to find out what you were. There was no other test that could have shown them. And now the test has run, and the results are coming in. And the results are not about the role. They are about you. If this is landing where it's supposed to land, chosen one, do one small thing. Tap the like and subscribe. Not for me. This message goes further when it moves. And somewhere out there is someone sitting in the cold quiet of having just been replaced. Told they were interchangeable. Told the machine would run fine without them, and quietly starting to believe it. Pay it forward to them. Let it reach the next chosen one who needs it. That's the whole mission. Now, let me show you what has actually been happening while you packed your things and walked out with your head down. The job description got handed to someone else. Every visible task listed and transferred. On paper, the handoff was complete, and that is exactly why nobody saw the problem coming, because the problem was never in the tasks. The tasks were the part you could write down. What could not be written down was the judgment that told you which task actually mattered on which day. The read of the room that told you when to push and when to wait. The thing people trusted without being able to say what it was. The weight the whole structure leaned on without ever calling it load-bearing. You didn't leave a gap in the workflow. You left a gap in the physics. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We replaced the role perfectly and lost the reason it worked. You might wonder why nobody warned them. Because nobody knew. Not even the people who valued you. Not really. Because a keystone does its whole job by making the load look like it isn't there. Nobody stands under a standing arch and thinks about gravity. The thing you carried was invisible precisely because you carried it well. Carry a weight badly, and everyone sees the strain. Carry it perfectly, and everyone concludes there was no weight. So here is the name for what they just pulled out of the wall. The keystone. Not the title, not the seat, not the list of duties anyone could inherit. The one-shaped presence the whole structure was quietly built around, whose only signature was that things held. They removed the keystone, and they are watching the arch come down, and they cannot for the life of them find the crack. Because the crack is not in any one place. It is everywhere the load used to run through you. Look around your own life for a moment. Not the big story, the small rooms. There is an office somewhere right now where someone was sidelined for a smoother replacement, and for 2 weeks everything looked fine. And then the small things started. A client who always renewed didn't. A handoff that always went clean now drops something on the floor every time. Nobody can point to the cause because the cause left the building, and the cause was never in the org chart. It was in a person. There is a family somewhere where one member held the whole thing together without a title, remembered the birthdays, absorbed the tension so the dinner could stay a dinner. And the others took it for weather, for the natural mildness of the family. Until that person stepped back, tired or hurt or simply done. And within a season, the gatherings got shorter, then rarer, then stopped. It just stopped holding because the one who held it was counted as furniture. There is a friend group where one person was the quiet center, the one everybody actually came for, and somewhere along the way got treated as optional, easy to cancel on. So they drifted out. And the group kept meeting for a while on momentum, and then the momentum ran out because momentum was the person, and nobody can say exactly when it died. So here is the law underneath all of it. You can copy what a person does. You cannot copy the reason it worked when they did it. Say that to yourself twice. The role is the copyable part. The tasks, the title, the description, all of it can be printed and handed to the next pair of hands. But the reason it worked was never in the description. It was in the person. It was judgment and trust and the exact right silence at the exact right moment. And 100 invisible loads carried so smoothly that everyone forgot they were being carried. Hand the role to someone cheaper and you have handed them a costume. The costume does not come with the body that filled it out. Chosen one, you have been treated as the costume for a very long time. This week, they found out you were the body. Which raises the obvious problem. If that is true, why did you start to believe them? Why did you walk out half convinced you really were interchangeable? Because you never got to see your own load. That's the cruelty of being a keystone. You feel the weight every day, but you feel it from the inside, as effort, as tiredness. You never once get to stand across the road and watch the arch you are carrying. You only get to be the stone. So when they told you anyone could do it, you had no way to check them because the only proof was the one thing you could not see from where you stood. The proof was your absence, and you were never absent until now. So no, you did not overrate yourself. You had, if anything, no sense of your own importance at all, which is exactly what let them talk you out of it. And now the test is running in the open, in front of the very people who told you it would run fine without you. So let me show you exactly how it comes apart, chosen one. 12 pieces, one at a time. Now, before we go any further, this is the part where the room thins out. Some of you came here out of curiosity. You saw the title, you felt a small pull, you clicked. There's no judgment in that. But right around now, the merely curious start to drift. This stops being a story about someone and starts being specific. And specific is uncomfortable when it isn't about you. So they go looking for the next thing, the next voice, the next promise. Let them go. This was never built to hold everyone. The ones this was made for are doing the opposite. You are leaning in. You got quieter. Something in your chest went still, the way it does when a stranger says your own private thought out loud. If that is you, chosen one, do this one thing. Go down to the comments and drop the number 999. Just that, 999. Not for luck, not because it's trending. Drop it because 999 is the number of completion, the end of one cycle before the next begins. And that is exactly where you are standing tonight, at the end of the thing you thought defined you. Drop it as a quiet hand raised in a dark room, a signal that you are locked in and you intend to hear this all the way through. I will see it. Others will see it, and they will know they are not the only one who got replaced and is only now finding out what that actually proved. And while you are there, the like and the subscribe keep this reaching the people who need it. Here is what comes next. not more comfort. 12 pieces, laid out in order, precise and step by step, showing you exactly what happens when someone pulls the keystone and drops in a cheaper stone, and why the room goes cold the moment they understand what they did. Number 1. The moment they decided you were replaceable. They did not measure you and find you small. They failed to measure you at all. There was a meeting you were not in, or a single line in a budget review where the decision got made. Let's replace this one. Cheaper option available. Same function, better margin. And I want you to see clearly what that decision actually was, because you have been carrying it as a verdict on your worth, and it was never that. It was a failure of measurement. They looked at you and saw only the parts that show on a chart, the title, the salary, the list of duties, and added those up and got a number, and the number looked replaceable. But everything that made you a keystone was in the columns they didn't have. Trust doesn't have a line. Judgment doesn't have a line. The way a room settles when you walk into it doesn't have a line. So it all rounded down to 0 in their math, and next to a cheaper option, 0 loses. Imagine this: a man selling an old house who counts only what he can point to. 4 walls, a roof, square footage, and there is a beam running through the center, buried in plaster, holding the second floor over the first. He cannot see it, so it is worth nothing in his telling. The buyer, cheaper-minded, pulls the wall the beam is hiding in because the wall is not on the list of things that matter. And the house comes down, not out of spite, but out of physics, because the most important structure in the building was the one nobody had written on the tour. That is the meeting where they decided you were replaceable. Nobody was cruel. They were just counting with the wrong instrument. You might wonder why the mistake felt so personal if it was really just bad accounting. Because you were the beam in the wall, and to be pulled out by people who genuinely could not see you is a specific kind of cold. Not hatred, something worse. Indifference born of blindness. They did not decide you did not matter. They decided you were not there. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We priced the role. We never found out what the person was worth because we removed them before the bill came due. The bill is coming due now. No, you were not overpaid. No, you were not lucky to have lasted as long as you did. You were undermeasured by people using a ruler that cannot read the only dimension that mattered. Number 2, the costume without the body. They kept the shape of you and lost the thing that filled it out. Watch what they actually transferred when they replaced you. The title intact, the desk, the login, the calendar, the list of responsibilities, all handed over cleanly. On the transfer document, nothing was missing, and that document is the reason they slept fine the first week. Everything that could be written down had been. What they never noticed is that everything that mattered had refused to fit on the page, because a role is a costume, chosen one. It is cut in the shape of a person, and when the right person is inside it, the shape looks alive, looks natural, looks like it was always meant to move that way. Take the person out, and the costume does not stop existing. It hangs there. It even holds a rough shape on the hanger, and you can put someone else inside it, someone cheaper, and from a distance, for a moment, it reads as the same figure. Up close, in motion, it doesn't. The seams sit wrong. The reach is short. The thing that made the costume move like it was alive is exactly the thing that was never part of the costume. Imagine this: A suit of armor standing in the hall of an old house, upright, gleaming, so lifelike in the dim light that guests lower their voices as they pass it. And everyone assumes the armor is what stood the night up all those years. Then someone lifts the helmet to clean it and finds there was never a body in it anymore. The man left long ago, and the armor held its own shape out of habit and the stiffness of old metal. And the moment it is asked to do anything a body does, it folds, because armor was always the thing worn over the strength. It was never the strength itself. You were the strength. The role was the armor. They kept the armor. You might wonder why they cannot simply pour someone new into the shape and get you back. Because the shape was cut by you being in it. The role they handed off was bent over years to the exact contour of your judgment, your instincts, your way of carrying weight. It was never a generic shape. It was a cast taken of a specific person. Put someone else in, and either they rattle around inside it or they split the seams trying to fill it. There is no third option because the mold was you. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We have the whole uniform. We just can't find anyone it fits. No, you did not leave anything undone. No, you did not fail to document your work. You documented the costume flawlessly. The body was never something a document could hold. Number 3. The load nobody measured. What looked like an easy job was a heavy one carried well. Here is the thing they got exactly backward, and it is breaking them now. They looked at how smoothly everything ran under you and concluded the work was light, easy, the kind of thing that justifies a cheaper hire, and every bit of that conclusion was drawn from evidence you created, because a heavy load carried by the right person looks, from the outside, exactly like a light load. The smoothness was not the absence of weight. The smoothness was mastery of it. Think about what that means. The better you were, the more replaceable you looked. Your competence was self-erasing. Every problem you solved before it became visible, every fire you put out in the hallway before it reached the room, all of it disappeared the moment you handled it, leaving no trace, no scar, no story. So the record of your work is a record of things that did not happen, and you cannot point to a disaster you prevented because prevention leaves nothing to point at. Imagine this. A ferryman who has run the same river crossing for 30 years, and he knows every current, every hidden rock, every place the water lies about its own depth. And because he knows it, every crossing is calm. Nobody grips the rail, and they step off at the far bank, certain it was a gentle river, a river a child could cross. So the company hires a cheaper man who has never seen the water because clearly anyone can steer a boat across a quiet river. And the river was never quiet. It was exactly as deadly as it always was. It only looked gentle because someone who understood it was standing at the wheel. And before we go any deeper, chosen one, do one small thing. If this is landing where it was meant to land, drop 999 in the comments, not for me, but as a quiet hand raised in a crowded room. A way of saying, I am here. I am one of the ones this was written for. 999. The number of a cycle finishing. A season closing on time, a thing completed. Leave it below and let the next chosen ones see they are not the only one who stayed. You were the ferryman, and they mistook your skill for the river's kindness. Difficulty that is handled well does not read as difficulty. It reads as simplicity. The only way to make them see how hard the crossing was to put someone at the wheel who doesn't know the water. And that is precisely what they just did. The rocks are still there, and now, for the first time in years, The passengers are gripping the rail. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We thought the water was calm. We are finding out it was him. No, you were not doing an easy job for good money. No, you were not coasting. You were carrying a river, chosen one, so well that everyone forgot it could drown them. Number 4. The first cracks. The replacement did not fail loudly. It failed the way real structures fail, quietly, from the inside, at the joints. The cheaper version came in, and for a moment, everything looked fine. That's what you have to understand about how this actually unfolds, because you may be bracing for a spectacular collapse, a public disaster, a clean moment of vindication. That is almost never how it goes. Keystone failures are quiet. The first cracks are hairline. They show up at the joints, in the places where things connect, in the handoffs and the trust and the small daily agreements that used to run without friction. Watch where it starts, not in the big deliverable, in the seams. An email that used to get answered in a way that closed the loop now gets answered in a way that opens 3 more. A relationship that used to be tended is now merely processed. A judgment call that used to get made gets escalated instead, because the cheaper version does not have the standing or the read or the nerve to make it. None of these is a catastrophe on its own. Each one is a hairline, but hairlines find each other. And a structure does not come down at its strongest point. It comes down at the joint that stopped being tended. Imagine this: a stone wall built without mortar, held up for a century by nothing but the skill of the one who chose each stone and set it against the next so that every piece locked its neighbor in place. It looks like it is held by weight. It is actually held by fit. And a cheaper hand resets one section by size instead of by fit, because size is all they can see. Nothing falls that day. The wall looks the same, but the locking is gone from that section, and stone by stone, frieze by frieze, the loosening spreads outward from the one place a hand that didn't understand the wall touched it. A year later, the wall is a pile, and no one can say which stone started it, because the answer is none of them and all of them. That is the falling apart, chosen one, not one loud crash, 1,000 quiet unlockings, spreading out from the seam where they swapped skill for size, and they cannot see the cracks either. The same blindness that let them replace you keeps them from reading the failure. They see symptoms and treat symptoms. A number dips, they push on the number. A client leaves, they blame the client. Each fix is aimed at the hairline they can see, and the load keeps finding the next joint, because they are fighting a collapse whose real cause left the building weeks ago. Here's the line they can't say out loud. Nothing broke that we can point to. Everything is just slightly worse everywhere, all the time. No, you were not imagining that things ran better with you there. They did. And the proof is arriving now, joint by joint, in a building that is learning what it leaned on. Number 5. The invisible work surfaces. Everything you did that nobody saw is becoming visible by its absence. There is a whole category of what you did that had no name, no line, no deliverable, and it was the largest part of the job. The part where you knew, without being told, that a certain person needed to be checked on before a certain decision, or a small thing had to be done today so a large thing would not go wrong next month. You did all of that on instinct, and it never appeared anywhere as work. It appeared as the general good weather of things running smoothly. Now that you are gone, all of it is surfacing at once, because each piece of invisible work is becoming visible in the only way it ever could, by not being done. The person who needed checking on isn't checked on, and now there's a problem. The conversation that needed to happen offline happens in the room instead, and now there's a scene. Your whole hidden ledger is being read aloud, one overdue entry at a time. Imagine this, a house where for years someone rose before everyone else and did 100 small things in the dark. Set the heat so the rooms were warm before anyone woke. Fixed the latch that stuck before anyone tried it. And the family woke every day into a house that simply worked, and never once connected the working to a person, because the person was always finished before they opened their eyes. Then that person is gone, and the family wakes into cold rooms and a latch that fights every hand. And only now, tripping over the exact edges that were smoothed for them, do they begin to count how many things they never knew were being done. That house is the room you left, chosen one, and they are waking into the cold this week. You might wonder why they never noticed the smoothing while it was happening, because the entire nature of that work was to leave no evidence. A problem prevented makes no sound. A tension diffused was never a tension anyone felt. You were, every day, deleting the record of your own importance as fast as you created it. The only ledger of your invisible work was the smoothness itself, and smoothness cannot be read until it is taken away. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We didn't know how much they were doing, because the sign that they were doing it was that we never had to know. No, you were not doing nothing all those quiet days. You were doing the most important thing so invisibly that it took your absence to write it down. Number 6. The room goes cold. There is one specific moment, and it is not the first crack. It is the moment they understand the crack has an author, and the author is them. Somewhere in the slow unwinding, there is a single moment when it stops being a series of unrelated problems and becomes one thing. Someone is sitting with the client loss and the missed handoff and the tension that spilled into the open and the number that keeps sliding. And for weeks, each of those lived in a separate drawer, filed as bad luck, filed as the new person still settling in. And then, all at once, the drawers open together, and every separate problem lines up in a single row and points at one decision: the decision to pull the keystone. That is when the room goes cold, chosen one. Not at the first crack, at the recognition. Because a crack is a problem, and problems can be fixed. But a self-inflicted collapse is not a problem. It is a verdict on the judgment of the ones who caused it. They did not just lose you. They chose to lose you for a saving, and they are now watching the true cost arrive in installments far larger than anything they saved. And you cannot unchoose a choice. You can only live in its weather. Imagine this: a crew that decided to save money by removing the old breakwater past the harbor, the long, low wall of stone that had sat in the water so long everyone forgot the sea it was holding back. It cost money and did nothing anyone could see, so they pulled it. And for a season the harbor was calm, and they congratulated themselves on the savings. Then came the first real storm, and the water walked straight into the town the way it had wanted to for 100 years. And as the boats broke against the docks, every person on that shore understood in the same instant that the calm had never been the sea's mood. It had been the wall, and they had removed it themselves and written it down as a savings, and there was no time now to build it back before the water arrived. That instant on the shore is the cold in the room. The moment saving turns into the most expensive thing they ever did. The damage is behind them, not in front of them. They are not calculating what you might do next. You are gone. They are recalculating a decision they already made and cannot reach back to unmake. And there is no colder feeling than understanding that the disaster you are standing in was not done to you. It was authored by you in a meeting with a spreadsheet and signed. Here's the line they can't say out loud. The storm didn't do this to us. We took down the wall and called it prudent. No, you did not curse them on your way out. No, you did not sabotage a thing. You simply stopped holding back a sea they never believed was there, and the sea did the rest. Number 7. Why they can't just call you back. The bridge you would have to walk back over is the one they burned to save the toll. There is a fantasy running in that room right now, quietly, in the ones who see it clearest. The fantasy of undoing it, of a phone call, of asking you back, restoring the arch by returning the stone. And I want to explain why that fantasy dies in their throats every time they get close to it. Because understanding this is part of your freedom. They cannot call you back. Because calling you back is a confession. To ask you to return is to say, out loud, in front of everyone who watched them replace you, that the replacement was a mistake, that the saving was a loss, that their judgment failed in exactly the place they are paid to have judgment. To bring you back, they would have to move the cheaper version out of your chair, admit why, and stand in the wreckage of their own decision, holding it in both hands. Pride will not let them. And so the very thing that could save the structure is the one move their pride has made impossible. Imagine this. A man who, in an argument he was sure he was winning, burned the only bridge across the river to prove he did not need the other side. And he was right, for a while. Then the season changed, and everything he needed turned out to be on the far bank after all, and he stood looking at the black beams of the bridge he destroyed, and understood the crossing was gone not because the river was wide, but because he had made a show of not needing it. Rebuilding would mean admitting he was wrong to burn it in front of the same people who watched him strike the match. So he stays on his side and tells himself he prefers it. That is the room, chosen one. They are on their side of a river they set on fire, telling themselves they prefer it, while everything they need waves at them from your bank. And some will eventually swallow the pride and try anyway. Here is what you need to know before that call comes. Even if they ask, they cannot get back what they had, because what they had was a keystone who did not know its own value, who carried the load without counting it, who held it up for free. That person is gone. Not because you would refuse, because you have now seen your own load. You will never again carry the arch and believe it is nothing. The unaware keystone cannot be rehired. It can only be replaced by the aware one, and the aware one does not work for what the unaware one accepted. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We can't afford to ask them back, and we can't afford not to. And both of those are things we did to ourselves. No, you did not slam the door on your way out. They burned the bridge behind you and are now calling the empty crossing your stubbornness. Number 8. what the cheaper version reveals about them. They did not want a worse worker. They wanted a quieter one. And the two turned out to be the same person. Look closely at what they went looking for when they replaced you, because it tells you everything about why it had to fall apart. They said cheaper, but listen to what cheaper actually meant in that room. It meant more agreeable. Someone who would not push back on the bad idea, would not go quiet at the wrong moment for the right reason, would not make them feel the friction of a real judgment that disagreed with theirs. They did not just want to spend less, they wanted to stop being challenged. And they found a person who would give them that, and they called the relief of no longer being challenged a savings. Here is what they refused to understand. The pushback was the product. The friction they were paying to remove was the exact mechanism that kept them from their own worst decisions. You were not difficult for the sake of it. You were the part of the system that said no when no was true, that held a standard when the standard was inconvenient, that made them slightly uncomfortable in the small ways that prevented large catastrophes. They mistook the discomfort of being kept honest for the discomfort of a bad employee, and they cured it, and now they are free. Free of the one voice that was keeping the whole thing from driving off the road. Imagine this, a driver on a long mountain road who finds the constant tug of the steering wheel annoying, the way it keeps resisting his hands, never just letting him relax into the drive. So he has a mechanic loosen it all, make the wheel turn easy and agreeable to the lightest touch. And for a few miles, it is bliss. The wheel does whatever he wants, with no argument at all. And that is precisely the problem, because a steering system that does whatever you want with no resistance will also, without one word of protest, follow your smallest, careless motion straight off the edge. The resistance was not the flaw. The resistance was the thing keeping him on the mountain. You were the resistance in the wheel, chosen one, and they paid to have it loosened. And now the road is turning, and nothing is pulling back. Agreeable feels wonderful right up until the curve. The cheaper version tells them what they want to hear, and being told what you want to hear is a drug. And for a while, the room is warmer and everyone gets along. The bill for that comfort does not arrive in the meeting. It arrives at the curve, when there is no voice left in the car that was willing to say, slow down. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We didn't replace a person. We removed the only one who ever told us no, and we called it a raise for the budget. No, you were not too blunt. No, you were not hard to work with. You were the resistance in the wheel, and they are about to learn on a curve what that resistance was for. Number 9, the slow unwinding. Without you, nothing collapses on any single day. It just quietly stops being what it was. I need you to understand the true shape of the falling apart, because it will not look like the movies, and you may miss it if you are watching for fireworks. There is rarely a single day of collapse. What there is instead is entropy, the slow, undramatic slide of a thing that used to be held toward the shape it takes when nothing holds it. It does not fall, it sags. It does not shatter, it erodes. Every day is only slightly worse than the last, so slightly that no single day announces itself as the disaster, and yet a year of those days is a different world. This is why they will struggle to ever fully name what went wrong. There will be no headline, no scene they can replay, just a long, quiet accumulation of things that used to work and now merely function. Relationships that used to be warm and are now transactional. Standards that used to be defended and are now negotiable. A place that used to have a certain feeling and now has the feeling of any place. The keystone did not only hold the stones, it held the identity. And identity, once the keystone is pulled, does not fall in a heap, it leaks. Imagine this, a garden one person tended for years, not as a job, but as a way of seeing, knowing which things to prune and which to let run wild, which weed was actually holding the soil. And to a visitor, it just looked like a naturally beautiful garden, a lucky plot with good light. Then the gardener leaves and no one destroys it. Nothing dramatic happens at all. It simply goes back to what land does without a gardener. The aggressive things take the gentle things. The paths blur. And in 3 seasons, it is not a ruined garden. It is just a field again. And a stranger walking past would never guess it was ever anything else. The beauty was not in the plants. It was in the gardener's attention, and attention cannot be inherited. That garden is what they are watching, chosen one. Not a fire, a field, slowly reclaiming what your attention held in shape. And it is not for you to watch. It is not your entertainment, and it is not your revenge. It is simply the truth becoming visible on its own schedule, and your part in it ended the day you left. You only have to know, with a quiet and settled certainty, that a garden without its gardener does exactly one thing, and it does it without any help from you. Here's the line they can't say out loud. Nothing collapsed. It's just that everything we were is slowly turning into anything at all. No, you did not hold a grudge that made this happen. Entropy is not a grudge. It is what your absence looks like from the inside of a thing that mistook you for optional. Number 10. They cannot name what they lost. You can grieve a person. You cannot grieve a function. And they insisted to the end that you were a function. Here is the cruelest turn in the whole thing, and it is entirely their own doing. To justify replacing you, they had to first convince everyone, including themselves, that you were just a role, a function, a slot. They had to flatten you into your job description, because you cannot cheaply replace a person, but you can absolutely replace a function. So they told the story that way, all the way to the door. And now that the loss is real and they are standing in it, they have no language left to name what they lost, because they spent all their language proving it was nothing. Think about the position that leaves them in. They are grieving in the specific way a structure grieves its keystone, with cracks, with cold, with a pervasive sense of wrongness. And they are not allowed to call it grief, because grief would admit that what left was a someone and not a something. So the loss has no name. It floats around the building nameless, felt by everyone, sayable by no one. And a loss you are forbidden to name does not heal. It just becomes the permanent weather. Imagine this, a town that had a river running through it, and the river was so much a part of the place that people stopped seeing it and started seeing it as just the shape of things. And someone upstream, for reasons of cost, diverted it. And the town did not flood or burn, it simply dried. The mills stopped. The green went brown, the birds left, and when strangers asked what was wrong, the people could not quite say, because to say the river was gone, they would have had to admit the river had ever mattered, and for years they had treated it as scenery. So they said, times are hard. They said, it's a rough patch. They said everything except the river is gone, because naming it would have meant admitting they let it go. That town cannot mourn its river, chosen one, and that is exactly why the drought is permanent. Maybe someday one person names it, quietly, to themselves on a hard night. But the group never will, because the group is made of the same pride that authorized the replacement, and pride would rather live in an unnamed drought forever than say the word that admits it diverted its own river. So the thing you were will go permanently unnamed in the place you gave it to, and that is not a tragedy for you, it is the shape of your freedom. You do not have to be remembered rightly by people who needed you to be forgettable. Here's the line they can't say out loud. We can't say what we lost, because saying it would mean admitting we had it and threw it away. No, you were not forgettable. No, you were not a function. You were a river they called scenery, and now they live downstream of the day they let you go, in a dry town they are not allowed to name. Number 11. You were never the role. This is the one that changes how you walk out of here, so sit up for it. There is a belief you carried into that job, and if you are not careful, will carry into the next one, and it has to break tonight. The belief that you were the role, that your value was on loan from the title, and that without it you are just a person, ordinary, needing to be hired back into worth. That belief is the reason being replaced felt like being erased. And it is false, and its falseness is being proven this week in the most expensive demonstration they will ever run. Watch the logic of it. If your value had lived in the role, then the role would still be valuable now that someone else holds it. But it doesn't. The value left with you. It walked out the door in your chest and left the title sitting there like an empty coat, which can only mean one thing, chosen one. The value was never in the role. It was in you. You did not borrow your worth from the position. You lent it, for years, for a salary. And the moment you took the loan back, the position was revealed as what it always was. A container that had value only when you were the thing inside it. Imagine this, a lantern that hung on a post at the edge of a village for so many years that the villagers came to speak of the post as the thing that lit